joining us is our first ever guest here on Schein Time, the Hall of Famer, the outstanding head coach at St. John's, my guy, the great Rick Pitino. You really are the master of the transfer portal. And, a lot of coaches, in all different college sports can complain about things. How do you do it so well? What's the key?
Well, it is really difficult because you're watching all types of film in a very short window. You're speaking to agents. You're not sure who's going in the portal. So you've got to get 3 or 4 at each position. Then you've got to understand the work ethic. That's the number one key. Is he willing to pay the price to work? And if he is, then you have a good chance. Often players will ask me, can you get me to the NBA level? And I always say, absolutely not. I can get you to reach your potential. If that's good enough for the NBA, they will decide that. And it's up to the Knicks, it's up to the Celtics, it's up to the San Antonio Spurs. They determine whether you're a draft choice, but we will get you to reach your potential.
Jim Boeheim once told me, our mutual friend, you are the best X's and O's coach that has ever coached in college basketball. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it's very nice. Probably not true, but it's very nice. I think what the culture that we bring to the table is we try not to leave any stone unturned. We try to get every player development during the mornings to get them to their highest point. We try to turn over every scouting, every analytic to get ready for an opponent. But there are a lot of great coaches in our game. I think that the way you have to look at it is you got to love the game. You got to eat, sleep, and drink the game. You got to put players first. And if you do all that, you'll be successful.
Jim Boeheim is a sports junkie, not just basketball. He was the first one, when it was all said and done, to say Tom Brady was going to be a superstar in the National Football League in a Syracuse-Michigan game. He's like, I'm telling you, everyone's talking Drew Henson. It's Tom Brady. Jim, how did you know Tom Brady was going to turn out to be the GOAT? How did you do that?
I mean, it's a lucky guess, probably. I'm not that smart. I like football and I watch it, but once you meet him, he's got the poise and the character and the work ethic to be that way. It was a great meld, him and Bill Belichick. Everybody's blaming Belichick that he couldn't do it without Brady. I don't think Brady would have done it without him either, and I think Brady has said that many times too. But I just think that we all make predictions, and every once in a while we get one right. We got that one right. That's good. The problem with the media guys, and you too, you make a lot of predictions. About 9 out of 10 are wrong, but you go back to the one that, I made that. I got that. I predicted that.
That's why you're the best, Coach. You've been a Knicks fan your whole life. How do you describe what you see when you watch Jalen Brunson?
He's just a dog. He's amazing. I mean, you see the footwork of Kobe. He's got that Kobe mentality, his ability to adjust. I think when his shot wasn't falling at the beginning of this stretch and he just has 15 assists back-to-back games, that's when we're at our best, I think, when you don't know what we're going to do. Like the fact that he's getting everyone going, OG's going, Cat's going, everybody's hitting shots. When Josh doesn't think, but he just kind of reacts, and there's this unpredictability to our offense, I think the Knicks are really scary. So, yeah, I mean, what Jalen's brought to the Knicks is this kind of, composure and this belief that even if he has an off game, he's gonna bounce back and he's gonna do it. I mean, he's just. How many small guards have you seen like this in the game's history? It's like Isaiah Thomas, Iverson, obviously Steph, but it's a short list of small guards. You're like, damn, this guy's a closer.
You had the best tweet of anyone on Bam Adebayo scoring 83, which to me was not a classic game in any way, shape, or form. And I still think what Kobe did, that was a million times better. Bam Adebayo 83, like Brendan Fraser winning the Oscar. Take us through it.
Oh, yeah, we didn't see it coming, we thought he was good, but we didn't know that good, Always liked Brendan Fraser. Look, Bam's a great player. I always loved how he played, but you don't expect like a defense guy to drop 83. And look, I feel bad for the guy a little bit. He does this amazing accomplishment, and everyone's just like, this fucking pussy? Like everyone's like, well, this guy? Like, who cares? It's a pretty impressive feat, 83 points, no matter how you do it. They show Wemby, and he's like, whatever. And it's like, sorry, Wemby. Sorry, my 83 wasn't good enough. Granted, he did it on 43 free throws, but that's what happens when you play a shit team like the Wizards.
Awful.
Which, thank God, they have Trae Young there. He has to live in purgatory for the rest of his life. Yeah, he'll be rich, but he'll be a sad rich. It won't be a happy rich. He'll be a miserable guy. And the Wizards are a terrible franchise, and that's what happens. You foul this guy that many times. Yeah, he was foul baiting a little at the end, I guess, but you got to give him his flowers, and it's cool that he did it in front of his girlfriend. I feel like usually these NBA players, either their girlfriend or like a hot lady they're trying to impress is in the crowd, they bring the heat.
Listen, I'm with you completely, and I feel bad for Bam, but and I love the way he plays. I love his style, but it's Washington, as you said. You framed it eloquently, and they're starting hacking everybody.
I remember Sydney Sweeney was at the Comedy Cellar one night, and I was like, I better bring it, as if like she's gonna leave her boyfriend because I have a hot set. Like I'm such a dipshit. I was like, I don't know. Did you hear that? You hear that 8-minute joke about my penis? It's pretty good, Sydney Sweeney. What do you think?
Listen, I'd be inspired if Sydney Sweeney wants to come to the next Schein Time. I'd all of a sudden do the best show I've ever done.
I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be a good sports show. I don't think she knows sports.
I take my chances, though. I take my chances.
Yeah, you got to take your chances.
All right, give me your favorite Nick Celebrity Row fan. Your favorite Knicks fan on Celebrity Row.
Ooh, who do you want to sit next to? That's a good
if you
question.
could have one seat next to one celebrity Knicks fan, who is it and why?
Who's not like one of my friends.
Right, correct. Take all friends out.
Damn. I don't know, man. There's so many. Marbury, being near Marbury is kind of cool because he's such a hardcore fan. I sat next to Spreewell once, and that was really fun because he was laughing at my antics, and that's all you want as a comedian is.
Yeah.
We were playing the Thunder when they had Josh Giddey, and let's just say I was making a few pedo jokes, and Spreewell was smiling, and I do an annoying thing when I'm under the basket where they're shooting free throws, and I just start like tap dancing kind of, and I start stomping, and it's annoying because you feel it on the floor. The building shakes. So I did it once, and Giddey missed both free throws, and Spree was like, holy shit, it works. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm firing up Spree. So, you make a few jokes about Giddey, and that was pretty cool. I was near Starks once. That was pretty badass. After a big run, a high five from Starks, the child in you is like, oh, this is pretty epic. So any of the former players who are still really supportive, it's cool. It's cool to be near Stiller if he's ever at a game because he's like a real fan. Near Tracy Morgan's fun because you can't understand half the shit he's saying, but it's always. I remember one time we were at a game, my friend and I, and we're behind him, and Michael Beasley for the Knicks just went off, and he's just having the game of his life. He's just cooking, and we're like, oh shit, this is amazing. It's cool to watch a guy like Beasley just in his element, a guy with that much talent, and goes off. And Tracy just turns behind us and he looks at both of us and goes, real animals eat meat. And we're like, yeah, fuck yeah. But then you think about it, you're like, I guess there's like omnivores too, but you're like, in the moment, you're like, hell yeah.
Yeah. That's all that matters, yes.
Yeah, dude. It was cool.
How do you compare calling World Series games to WBC games?
It's a great question. Because I've heard a lot of the guys, even Aaron Judge, saying that this has exceeded what the World Series games felt like for him. It's just different, Adam. It's different. I don't know that I would say it feels. It does not feel bigger, but it does feel like it taps into a deeper level of importance and passion, specifically for the Latin American countries. You really can feel. Not just in the amount of noise and the percentage of the crowd that sways in the Dominicans' direction and in the Venezuelans' direction, not just by sheer volume, but there's something intangible about what it means to them that really does come through in the environment in these games that doesn't make it better or worse, or it's just different from World Series games.
I need a thesaurus to describe Shohei Ohtani. You call his games locally, nationally, every game that matters for Shohei, all his iconic playoff games. What words do you use in describing the unicorn?
Yeah, I'm going to need that same thesaurus because I'm running out of stuff, right? 2 years of being with the team, and he's got 2 championships. The cool thing is, Adam, while we may be running out of words to describe, he's not running out of things that we need to describe. He's coming up with new elements every year. So 2 years ago, he can't pitch. What's he do? He decides to steal 58 bases or whatever it was. Last year, he returns to two-way duty and pitches in the World Series for the first time. This year, does he make a run at his first Cy Young? And it seems outlandish to say, like, come on. But should anything really feel outlandish with him? And if there's one thing that you can count on, even if you don't know what it's going to be, you know it's going to be something. You know that he's going to have that pie in the sky, that cherry that he's aiming for. And that's the one thing that he doesn't have. So I don't think that's a crazy thing to say that he probably is going to have that set as a goal to push for this year.
You had this with the Raiders, obviously, with Gruden, and it was an unbelievable marriage. I mean, you guys, the NFL films with Gannon and Gruden was unbelievable always. And, you have to have that in the NFL. And I love Clint Kubiak in general. I love him specifically with Mendoza. So take us through that relationship, why it's so important, and what the Raiders will be getting with that kind of marriage here with the head coach, play caller, and the young quarterback.
Adam, this is a brilliant question because I was with Clint Kubiak last Tuesday and I asked him that specifically. I said, what's that relation? How involved are you going to be? Are you going to call the plays? Are you going to be in the quarterback room, meeting room? He said, yes. He knows how critically important that is to have that relationship, to be able to have those conversations on a daily basis about the game plan, what the quarterback likes, what he doesn't like, what the quarterback's thinking. And most importantly, and I mentioned this to Fernando Mendoza at the Super Bowl, you and I were together that week. I said to him, you have to understand the why. The why is critically important for any quarterback in a National Football League. Why is the coach calling the play? What is the coach anticipating? Those type of conversations that you have on a daily basis. That's why I think whoever the play caller is, and it's going to be Clint Kubiak, has to spend a lot of time with this young quarterback.
Do you have a comp, whether it's someone who's playing now or someone who played in different eras? I've actually compared Mendoza to Jared Goff or Matt Ryan as an ultimate compliment, or Kirk Cousins, frankly, Rich. Anyone strike you in terms of a comparison for Raiders fans watching?
Well, I think he's bigger than Cousins. I think he's probably a better athlete. I think he has no problem leaving the pocket. He can run for a couple first downs every week. That's not something that Kirk Cousins is comfortable doing. He's more of a pocket rhythm type passer. But Adam, I don't think he's even scratched the surface. People talk about his arm talent. Look, when you're that young and you've been in school and you're doing all these things, you're going to be a pro player. You're going to be every day at the facility. Here's the great part. He's already learning the playbook.
Yeah.
Think about that. Brian Greasy and him are spending a lot of time together. He had his pro day just yesterday, and of course next Tuesday he'll be at the Raider facility. So this thing's moving along fast, and I'm excited. I think he's going to be much further along than most rookie quarterbacks. I think they're spending a lot of time this offseason trying to indoctrinate him and get him comfortable with the playbook. I think he has the capacity to handle a lot of volume and information. That's exciting. And, I'm thrilled for this guy because, when you sit down and you visit with him, he comes from a great family. He's very genuine. He's hardcore. It's important to him. He asks the right questions. I think he has natural leadership skills. This is what this organization has been craving for a long, long time.
What was your favorite match and/or favorite win of your career?
Okay. So my favorite win was definitely beating Roger at the Olympics. I looked at Roger at that time as the greatest of all time at that point. He was number one in the world. He had beaten me probably already 9 times, and I just couldn't get over that hump. I couldn't beat him. And beating him at the Olympics with USA on my chest, that was absolutely unbelievably special. I really didn't get very nervous playing tennis because I was always prepared. But the times I did get nervous were when there was USA on my chest, because I felt like you're not playing just for yourself. You're playing for something that means more. You got more eyes on you, and more people that care about you, out of their patriotism, out of everything that you represent when you're out there. And I wanted to act better. I wanted to play better. I wanted to do everything I could to show that I was proud to play with the stars and stripes on my chest. So I was always that one was probably my favorite. Probably my most memorable match was the one against Andre, though, which is a little sad that there was a loss. And I joke now, I've talked to Andre so many times, that at that night he said, "Oh, well, tennis was really the winner tonight." And I didn't want to hear that at the time, because I just lost, so I was so frustrated. But the wisdom after, when you add in the time frame, he was very wise that night, and it's true, because it's 20 something years later now, and I still have people come up to me telling me they were at that match, they were watching on TV, they were cheering for me, they were cheering for him, and to know that I was a part of something that's still in people's memories 20 years later, that is a win for tennis, because that means that match was really memorable, and that match made a difference in other people's lives, whether it was just for a couple of hours. It brought them some joy, and we were out there competing, doing absolutely everything we could to win that match. That's another one where, like, I did everything I could to win, didn't quite win, lost to a great champion, and Andre, so I have nothing to be ashamed of. But of course I wish I had won that match. Gotten me further in the US Open and given me a chance to accomplish something else in my career. But I lost to a great champion. I did absolutely everything I could. So that night I was very, very frustrated and didn't get to sleep at all. But now I can sleep just fine, knowing that I did everything I could in my power to win that match. And Andre was just better that night.
I've made a case that Djokovic is the greatest of all time. And I know the respect level that you have for him. I love what you said on ESPN last year when you felt like he was even better than ever. Because I got it. Like, I understood exactly what you were saying. Do you consider him the GOAT? And who's on your all-time men's tennis Mount Rushmore?
Oh, that's a good question. He's the GOAT. I mean, he's got every accolade you could imagine. He's got more weeks #1, more Grand Slams, more Masters 1000s. He's done it all, and absolutely, he's the GOAT. So he's of course on the Mount Rushmore, and you pretty much have to put the big three up there. Is Roger, Rafa, and Novak as the three up there, and so it's just a matter of who's the fourth. And you got two guys right now that are competing to be that fourth, and they might by the end of their careers, and Sinner and Alcaraz, be up there. But if I had to pick one more to put up there, I'm probably going to take Pete.
Yes, I'm so glad you did that. I think people forget about what a legend he is. Take me through that.
Yeah, and how incredible is that at 14 slams when he retired, that looked like that was never going to be touched, because he was he had broken a record that stood for so long with Roy Emerson, and I think people forget just how good he was and how dominant he was on grass. And he was a much better athlete than a lot of people recognize and realize and give him credit for. Because a lot of people say, "Oh, he was a serve volleyer. He never would have made it in today's game." My goodness, he would have made it. He was an unbelievable athlete with a massive forehand and absolutely kind of underrated speed and athleticism. So he would have competed, and he would have been one of the greats of all time in any generation. And he just didn't have the same, I don't know, PR team or marketing or anything like that back then, because he was very understated. And he didn't go through all the histrionics. He didn't have a lot of, crazy marketing campaigns, but he went out there and he took care of business. And the other thing I love about that is that's who he is. He's a genuine person. I would have hated to see him go out there and act like Marat Safin and smash rackets and break things and go crazy but that's who Marat is. So I love seeing that, and I love people being genuine, and Sampras is genuine. That's who he is. He takes care of business on the court, and off the court he's pretty quiet. He's a really nice person, and he'll still take credit for introducing me to my wife. So I gotta give the legend credit there too, but because I met her at doing an exhibition with him, so he likes taking credit for that. But he's a great guy, and I think he's on the Mount Rushmore as well.
You've been out of the ring for a while. I don't know if I want to call it, retirement, but you've been out for a minute. So what made you decide to come back, and what do you want to accomplish?
Well, there was actually a cascade of events that really brought me to it. A big one was actually watching Mike Tyson come back.
Oh, wow.
At almost 60 years old and putting on the most viewed fight of all time. It wasn't a money grab. It wasn't a nostalgia event. It was something real, something that people missed and wanted to see. And so I knew that, if I came back and the only person I would come back for would be Gina, that it would be huge. And I was 9 months pregnant, sitting on my office chair when I saw an interview that Gina gave after she got canceled. She was going through a tough time. You could tell she was like really unhealthy and gained a lot of weight. And I was like, damn, man, a fight between the two of us would be huge. And it would be, I think, not just what I need, but what she needs. And that's really what made me kind of like tip me the other way. You know, it wasn't just something that I felt was that I needed. I feel like it was something that she needed too. So that's when I finally reached out, and she was down from the get-go.
And you were 9 months pregnant when you made that decision? Wow, that's crazy.
I was ready to burst, and of course I'm like, I should fight about it.
That's the thought bubble over your head as you're 9 months pregnant and saying, you know what? I'm going to fight. How about the Olympic experience? I mean, the smile right there. I mean, what was that like in terms of pride, in terms of power, in terms of prestige, in terms of being a first, in terms of representing the country? I mean, that must have been something extra special for you.
I mean, that was like my dream since I was like a little kid, is I wanted to be, you know, the first American to win the Olympics in judo. And I ended up being the first American woman to medal in judo, but I felt a little bit short of that goal. And I think I needed to fall short of it in order to have something in me left I felt like I needed to prove. And that's what really brought me into MMA. And I think that really training your whole life to be able to try and win on one day, nothing is ever going to compare to that pressure. And so everything else after that just seemed like you know, WrestleMania or like fighting for UFC belts and stuff like that. It's not nearly as scary. Nothing is scarier than facing down your one opportunity to make your dreams come true at the Olympics.
You referenced real-life Jerry Ferrara, of course, sitting courtside. I want a hypothetical for a second. If the Entourage characters were courtside during this run, what would this scene be like?
Oh. So, you know, historically, the Entourage guys, we lived in LA, we always went to the Lakers game and on the show. And it was always more, we made it more on the show about who's there and Jack Nicholson and all this fun stuff, where the after party was. To me, if the Entourage guys were courtside, it would be very intense. At least my character would be. I think you would see, a cool thing would be after a Knicks win, bring Vinny Chase into the crowd outside the Garden and stick him up on a light post. You having his almost famous moment, shouting down to the fans. I think that would, and Johnny Drama dropping to the knees, going victory. I think that would be a great episode.
That would be amazing. I'd sign up for that right now. What are your expectations this year for John Harbaugh's Giants?
I think you could really focus on that week one right out of the gate, because I cannot remember the last time the Giants beat the Cowboys in an opener or week 2 or 3. They got some late season wins with injuries all over the place. To me, if this team really is going to be different, you beat the Cowboys week 1. Look, I love what they did with the draft, and I really, really think that, I mean, I don't know how close they are. People say they might be this year's Patriots. That's a lot of things have to line up for that to happen. That's a big stretch. But I like this team in the East. I just think that they got the right guys. I think that offensive line is going to be good, and I love the way they're building the team. And we got the quarterback. That's the thing that, I'm sorry, I love the NFL, but it kind of begins and ends with that. You got to have that guy.
And they do, without question. I'm turning 49 next month. I've never seen a championship. You understand the connection between the fans of the city and the Knicks better than any human being on the planet. What would a parade this year look like and feel like?
We'll need the National Guard. We need the National Guard, man, to protect these guys. This doesn't even compare to when we played. When we played, there was no social media. And when we played in the old Garden, there are no women or kids at the game. It's all guys. There's a smoke cloud hanging over the scoreboard. You can't get to a phone. All the guys are calling the bookie to bet on the game. So only when we moved to MSG, where we are now, guys started to bring their girlfriends.
like 67, 68, 68, 69. Then we have matinees. They might bring some kids. And then Bradley came to read the Bush. So it was the place to be. They started showing up with women and different things. The celebrities started to come out. But we still have nothing like you see with what these Knicks have right now. You can't go anywhere. I can barely walk the street. If they get to the final, win another championship, forget about it, man.
100%.
So it's and the fans deserve it, man. These are the best fans, the most provocative, the most knowledgeable, the most caring. Look at how we take over arenas. We took over Philly. We go to Atlanta. I'm sure they're going to be in Cleveland. So no other team has that. No other has that fan base like the Knicks.
All right, let's jog them at the Rolodex for a second. What did you wear, because obviously your outfits are iconic, to your Knicks parade, and what do you plan on wearing if and when the Knicks win a championship?
It'll be something provocative. I can't remember what I wore during the championship, but, I have to be styling and profiling for sure. So I'm living vicariously now with what the Knicks are doing. I'm at all the games. I'm just not playing. So, I'm there giving them encouragement that they can do it. And it's so nice to see all the other Knick legends there as well. It's like a family reunion. I see Patrick. I see Candyman. I see Spree. I see Allen, man. It's encouraging. Bernard. So I'm sure all of these guys, they don't really know all of our legacies, but to see that kind of teamwork and cohesion, it has to inspire them.
Do you pick out the outfit for tonight or for these playoff games in advance? Will you pick something out if there's a parade in advance? How will you handle that? A lot of pressure, Clyde.
Yeah, no, first of all, I check out the weather. I have to see what the weather is. Once I see the weather, I start trying to pick out an outfit. So the pressure's on every game. I got to step out, So I enjoy it. Like I tell people, this is how I used to roll, man. When we go on the road, I used to have a meat coat on, and I wore like Al Capone. I throw it over my shoulders. Come in like, hey, man, we're New York, baby. We're New York. This is how we do it. So we had so much fun. I love that. That's something I've never replaced. When you retire, it's something that gives you that challenge every other day to go out and be a champion, to rise to the occasion. So that's the void that once you retire, you can't feel that void.
Please, producers, don't get mad at me. Adam says that we go way back. The audience needs to know that in 2004, when I'm a Syracuse University student with no prospects, with no connections, knowing no one in this business, I send out about 30 emails to people in this business, and only one person called me back, and that was Adam Schein pumping gas in his car. He no chance remembers this, but I was starstruck. I was blown away, and so anytime he asks me to do anything for him, I will forever be in debt. And in fact, when people reach out to me now, I remember Adam Schein and what he meant to me sitting in my dorm room at Syracuse, calling me for 20 minutes and allowing me to ask him questions. And so you are an all-time Hall of Fame, A+ mention, in my opinion, and it's always a great, great honor to be on your show and call you a friend.
You've referenced Dana White. I mean, your rapport, your relationship with Dana, we've had the conversation before. It's been chronicled over the years. How would you describe it, Ariel, as we speak right now?
My relationship with Dana White is non-existent. We don't have a relationship. The last time I spoke to Dana White was 2016. At a few press conferences, I've asked questions, but in terms of like a real private conversation, it was in 2016. And just for the record, I often do interviews like this, and I get asked about him, and then it gets clipped off, and people say, "Oh, here's Ariel complaining or whining." I have no issues with the state of my relationship. Of course, as you know, in this business, you want to have a good, respectful relationship with everyone that you cover. Do I wish it was better? Absolutely. But do I understand that that's just the way the cookie crumbled here? Yeah, no problem. And I exist and he exists, and they don't stop me from doing my job, and we talk to the fighters and we're able to comment. It's a free world and a free press, and so it doesn't change anything that I do. And in fact, I will say, when I did have a very good relationship with him, there were times where, given how, how intimidating he can be sometimes, especially when you're a young reporter. You kind of had to bite your tongue a few times. Now I don't have to do that anymore. I don't get that call where someone's yelling at me and I got to put the phone like out here because it's so loud. And I'm living in a 700 square foot apartment and my wife's in the corner being like, what was that all about? And so I don't get those calls anymore. And that's kind of nice. But of course, yeah, I wish that it was better. But, that's sometimes, as a man that I look up to once said, Howard Cosell, you got to tell it like it is, and sometimes people don't like when you tell it like it is, and this is the byproduct of that.
Jerry McNamara, of course, our new coach for Syracuse basketball. And listen, last time we spoke, you said, Adam, you got to get him on. I had him on my Sirius XM radio show.
I heard him, yeah.
It was, Mike, I'm ready to run through a wall right about now.
Let's go.
And I'm not
Get the orange
surprised.
over.
How great of a move is that for orange? I love the orange right there in the background.
The orange. There we go.
Yeah.
And actually, Adam, the frame next to it, I hate to direct you. If you guys take a full screen of me for a second, the one over it there, that is an original piece of the Carrier Dome roof.
Wow.
In that frame. So there you go, with the dome, the days that roof was up there above, before it was no longer Teflon roof that you have to use, as you know, hot water hoses and people up there to try to manually remove snow so the dome didn't deflate, a la the Metrodome in Minneapolis. Same kind of dome and same kind of setup, and technology has changed the roof structure now. But yeah, I mean, very excited, obviously. To have another Syracuse alum there who understands, who is there and went away and really accomplished a lot in 2 years, took Siena from 4 wins to 14 wins to 24 wins and the NCAA tournament, and really gave Duke a heck of a game. It's such a different world now. It really is. It has changed so much in the last few years. And, at a different time, we have a different conversation. I think college sports is like running full speed into a brick wall. What's happening now in college sports is unsustainable. The cost of football and basketball. And part of what makes college sports great, 2 things. You went to the school. These guys are representing the school that many people went to. When you watch your alma mater play, they were in some of the classes. Maybe they weren't taking all of them, the most robust classes that you took, but they were part of the student body and they knew the things that happened on campus. Now you've got, mercenary 6-month stops in and out in all these sports. We've lost that piece of this. The other part that we've lost as well is the ability to build a program, because guys change and look for different places. And I think Jerry, with his signings in NIL usage of his roster construction, he's tried to get guys who will stay for a couple of years and tried to build something. It's going to be interesting to see if that can win out over time, over the, everybody's a free agent. We'll just spin the wheel and get new guys. I'm happy Jerry's there. Happy. I think Syracuse basketball, when it's good, it's better overall for the sport, for the ACC, for the Northeast as well. And I really have great confidence that he's going to be able to get this program going back in the right direction and be talking in March, especially with an expanded tournament field. Just gives you more teams a chance to get in. And look, that's why it happened. Because if you get more teams in the mix, it allows the folks who are funding the NIL side to have a little more skin in the game. Okay, it wasn't a wasted season. We got to the NCAA tournament. It's really hard to fund $7-8 million rosters and teams don't go to the tournament. It's hard to get all these teams in the ACC and the Big 12 and the other leagues, the Big East as well, to compete with what the SEC and the Big 10 are doing. And if we're not careful, we'll separate those teams. And it may be a fun little 40-team league, but it's not the national footprint, because people in Arizona State fans, Colorado fans, all across the Big 12 footprint, all across the ACC footprint. If the SEC and the Big 10 expand out to 20 each and go to 40, you're going to get like 35 cities that don't give a damn about what's going on in college sports. So, and we have semi-pro sports. We have the G League, which is, pro minor league sports. We've got we don't need that. College has something special. And what they've done is they've eroded the special. And if somebody doesn't step up and take control of it, you're not going to have 70, 80 schools and their alums and their student bodies feel like they're a part of what's going on. So it's a huge next 3 to 5 years of college sports. I hope Syracuse can remain a significant front row player, and hires like Jerry McNamara and Fran Brown a couple of years ago is our best effort as a school to try to do that.
And Mike, you referenced going into Madison Square Garden. You've been in that building for every single moment that has mattered. in Madison Square Garden. We could talk college, we could talk Rangers, we could talk Knicks. What makes MSG so special?
There's nothing like it. And this is not taking anything away from Yankee Stadium. This is not taking anything away from, now when you play Super Bowls, you don't play them on home field, so it's not the same thing. Although I would say this, the scene in Tampa when the Giants beat the Bills was one of the great sports settings I've ever been in my life, and it was one of the most remarkable games I've ever been in my life, with the whole Gulf War and Whitney Houston and the great play by the two teams and everything else. So that is a great memory. There is no building. First of all, it's New York City, and there is nothing that pulsates like the heart of New York City, like Madison Square Garden does on a big sports night. I've always said, I wanted, now, if Dog and I were in our prime, we would be in that building at 1 o'clock this afternoon starting a show. And we would be sitting there, and we would be in the building the whole time. And we would be talking out of the building. And I always said, I wish I could have gone, and we did that in 94 a million times.
Yep.
Okay, with the Knicks lost and the Rangers won. They both, 49 playoff games that year, home and away. 49, 25 at the Garden, 24 on the road. Rangers win in 7. I've still said the most intense building I've ever been in my life, Adam, in my life, was Rangers Devils Game 7. Waiting for the third period was the most intense I ever saw a building in my life. There was like no one could take a breath. That's how crazy that was. That game, more than anything else, was the most intense game I've ever been to in my life. I've said that a million times. But having been in the Garden for so many big events, there is nothing that says New York. There is nothing that says big time in sports like Madison Square Garden. You realize that when you're in that building tonight, you are in the center of the universe. That's all there is to it. Everything is revolving around that building. Nothing else feels like that. And that's why I've made this statement. I made this statement about 40 years ago, and I've heard a couple people bring it up in the last week. I said, people love the Yankees, and they have a great following. People love the Giants, and they have a great following. But when the Knicks are playing for high stakes, they take this town on a ride that the Yankees can't do, the Giants can't do, because they light up New York and Manhattan in a way that the other teams don't. A lot of their fans are in the suburbs. A lot of their fans... But Manhattan, the socialites, the rich people, the beautiful people who will all be in the Garden tonight, okay? They'll all be there. They respond to the Knicks more than any other team. And that's why when the Knicks get like this, there is nothing like the impact that the Knicks have on this city. And right now, the Knicks they have the whole city in the palm of their hand. That's all there is to it. And this doesn't happen for teams very often. And this is an experience that comes along very, very rarely. This is one of the great, if you're in that building tonight, this is one of those great New York sports nights that you've heard about and you've read about, and tonight you'll get a chance to experience.
I want to get your take on Taylor being at the game last night. I personally had no issue with it, but I'm dying to get your take. And also Taylor and Travis getting married at Madison Square Garden.
They're getting married at Madison Square Garden?
Yeah.
In Madison Square Garden?
That's according to the New York Post, yes.
She's getting married?
Yeah.
In the world's most famous arena?
That's right.
Ali Frazier?
That's right.
Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. Here comes Willis. Here comes Willis. And Taylor and Travis Kelce are getting... Listen, she was just at a Cleveland game. I know her man's a Cleveland guy. They're both hard. Now, I met Taylor. She was very, very sweet. You know, she seems like she's having a good time always. And, you know, it wouldn't be the finals in New York City if we didn't have, you know, Taylor Swift. I would say, yes, she's fine. I don't have a problem with Taylor Swift. I think it's crazy she's getting married in the Garden. That's wild.
That to me is nuts for her.
Is that for her fans? Like, are the fans going to the Garden to, like, watch
I would
her?
assume no, right? No, it's just they picked the Garden. That's the venue, according to reports. Not what I would do in general. Not what I would do if I was Taylor
But
Swift.
sit down. Can you name 5 of the players who are actually on the court right now, Taylor? Like, they were going nuts. But I would go nuts, too, if I was sitting on the wood last night at that game. Everybody was entitled to go crazy.
I'll give Taylor Swift a pass.
You can't stand her?
No, I love Taylor.
Are your kids Swifties?
Absolutely. One of my girls is, one's not. I absolutely love Taylor Swift.
I met her at a Knicks game.
Yeah,
She was very
she's great.
She was big. She said, "I'm a big fan of yours." I don't know if she mistook me for somebody, but we got selfies and everything. So she was sweet.
I still think the biggest and most important free agent signing in NBA history, Shaq to the Lakers. It was the biggest deal of all time. Your smile, your eyes right there. What is your reaction? Who was the biggest free agent signing in NBA history?
Wow, that's a great question. There have been some great ones. Shaq, he brought 3 championships in a row. So you got to say that's got to be the biggest. I don't know, Dennis Rodman, but Dennis Rodman was the third piece on that big 3. Shaq was the cornerstone. So you got to say Shaq coming to the Lakers. I couldn't believe it. It was a dream come true for me because I love Shaq. I had knew him as Orlando Magic. We even toured together in Japan and Australia when he was running with the Fushnikins. So having him on the Lakers, having him on the Lakers squad, then, having Kobe, not knowing that diamond in the rough, and then getting Phil, I got to say, man, Shaq got to be the biggest one.
What was that like, touring with Shaq? What was he like as a rapper?
Oh, he was larger than life, He could really flow, He didn't have no problems with the mic, but he did have problems with those elevators in Japan. I felt sorry for him because Japan is not built for Shaq.
No.
He was pretty, I would say he was having a tough time with the size of the things out there, but it was fun. We played basketball, threw him an alley-oop, so got that on my resume.
We know Lakers Sonics was a good day for you, as iconic a line ever in any of your songs, one of my favorite. What was the best day? Give me the best sports day for one of your teams for Ice Cube.
The Lakers beating Boston Game 7. Kobe and Ron Artest and, those guys pulling it off, Pau Gasol, avenging that, the year we lost, I think it was 2009, but, just kind of avenging that loss, bringing the championship, Kobe getting his 5th one. That was amazing day. Another amazing day was, Freddie Freeman hitting I think it was a grand slam in the World Series.
I'm a Yankee fan. I remember it well.
Yeah, grand slam. That was an amazing day. I ended up playing the next game, and it reverberated throughout the whole, the trip, to LA. And so, these are great days.
You're a U.S. legend. Obviously, in addition to your majestic play, we think about your amazing hair. A lot of chatter about another U.S. legend turned broadcaster's hair. And listen, I respect anyone who has great hair on the air. What do you think of Landon Donovan and his new do?
I love it. I love that he's been so kind of honest and open about talking about to what he's doing here. I told him before, I said, look, man, if it makes you happy, do it. I told him, just shave it off. You're a good-looking guy. I'm totally 100% with it. I'm so happy for him that he has done what makes him happy. And I like that he is kind of, embracing, the inevitable types of jokes that are going to happen. Own it, baby. And I think he's doing that. And I think it says a lot about him as a person that he is doing it. But for me, Landon Donovan, with or without hair, I still love him, and I still admire and respect the way he goes about his business, whether it was on the field, whether it's in front of the camera, or it's just in private.
Linda, you're such an amazing role model to so many people, whether it's boys, girls, men, women. But I just loved and the announcement that you're retiring from ESPN, you know, from Emily Kaplan to so many women in this business saying, Linda's a mentor. She's a role model. She's meant everything to me. What goes through your mind when you hear that?
Adam, when the announcement was made back on Monday, I started getting those kind of tweets and text messages from young women. And that's when it really resonated. And that really was the happy tears came falling down. And I'm not just saying it, I mean it. And the video I posted, that's, you can tell in my tone, my voice, my look on my face, it was just being grateful. And I'm so happy my professional legacy for me is making an impact with those young women who started out watching me on the SportsCenter re-airs. They could be in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, but when they saw me sitting in that SportsCenter chair, they knew anything was possible, that they too could be and talk sports and in any way, in any level of the profession. And I love that. I love that so much. And you mentioned young boys too. They, of course, that's my, obviously, because SportsCenter and sports and men and young men and all this stuff, I love that. That's my biggest following, especially the first 20 years of those 34. And what I love about that is when early on, you know, at that time, I knew I had made it. And it's when guys would come up to me and they would say, don't take this the wrong way, Linda. But I didn't take my sports from a girl or a woman until you're one of us. And that was, I said, wrong way? That's the best compliment I could ever receive. I go, I love that. Thank you for sharing it. So those are the kind of impacts for each gender that I'm most proud of, because men realize and boys realize that women can talk sports. And of course, the young women, the young girls who grew up knowing that they too can do whatever they want, no matter what it is. You know, if it's a, you know, if they're used to seeing just boys doing it.
I love that. Now, it's funny. I had a professor in college. I once asked, you know, I have a New York accent. I said, should I go to a speech pathologist if I want to do things nationally? And his name was Bob Lisset. He said, Schein, I will hunt you down and I will kill you if I ever hear that you go to a speech pathologist. So I'm curious, you're on SportsCenter, you're in Seattle. Did anyone ever say, Linda, you sound too New York? Or did you, what was your boss's take at ESPN? Did you ever try to hide it, an anchor voice? Because that to me was always part of the charm and the beauty of Linda Cohn.
Oh, thanks, Adam. And I'm like your professor. I'm so glad you didn't go to a speech pathologist. It's funny you brought that up because, you know, I took TV production at Oswego State, one of the classes, and this great professor I had, his name was Fritz Mazer. And I asked about the accent thing. I said, because, you know, you think I'm going to have to lose the accent, just like you considered it.
Yep.
And Fritz said, you know, this is how you lose the accent. You talk slower and open your mouth wider when you speak. And it's interesting, if you watch these early videos of my work on SportsCenter, because I didn't want to upset the apple cart, to your point. I didn't want to get outside the lane. I thought they would come down hard on me. So I did exactly that advice. You don't hear my accent hardly at all on those early SportsCenters, probably the first 5 to 10 years, because I was afraid. I was like, oh my, because, you know, I still was I had a gray area, and being a woman there and doing all those SportsCenters that I did at the time and all that. That's why, and also another factor, I love all these pictures and videos of the different looks of Linda, you know, through the years. All right. So I bring this up because it was the same sort of thing. I didn't want to have attention coming to me because of what I wore or how my hair looked. And it was probably being that shy little girl that I grew up being, that I wanted to kind of just like go with the flow. I wanted to stand out for the right reasons, for my sports passion, for my sports knowledge, and to just be one of the fans out there, one of the viewers. So that's why I was so conservative. I mean, it was a different time too, by the way. It wasn't a me culture, obviously, but that's why I had the conservative jackets, right out of Dynasty, type of thing with the shoulder pads. Joan Collins and Linda
That's
Evans,
right. Yeah.
And that's what I get a kick out of too.
So where does Team USA go from here? Is this the best we can do? How do we get better?
We have a lot of, there's a lot of complexity to this. We have some people who are making these decisions that need to really listen to the people who know what they're talking about, for one. And I happen to be one of them, and I hope they call me. I got a couple of calls yesterday. I was really proud of that, what do you think we should do? And that's healthy. Those are real conversations where we're actually engaging on the problem. There's that famous speech from Jeff Daniels. It's like, America's not the greatest country in the world. Right now, it's America's never going to win the World Cup. They're not. And if these people keep doing that, and those people keep doing that, and we continue to be 27th on the market value and 7th in attendance, and all, you could do the same thing. Somebody should do that, by the way. That'd be actually pretty funny to do Daniel's speech, because that's what it is. And we're never going to win a World Cup until we figure this out.
Well, I want to follow on a couple things here, because 42 million people watch United States-Belgium across Fox and Telemundo. And I would make the case, and your show on SiriusXM is hotter than the sun. I've watched more World Cup and more soccer than I ever thought I would. Seriously, I can't get enough.
Right.
People are picking up the phone and calling you, which I think is a brilliant idea. So who made the call? I'm fascinated. And what did you say?
Well, some of the delegates inside the federation are and some of the former coaches. I mean, I had a long conversation with Bob Bradley yesterday, and the idea that he's still sitting on the outside looking in is kind of somewhat criminal. The guy has an incredible mind. He's incredibly intelligent, intuitive. His son is doing great things as a coach in New York, and the idea is to instead of hand the keys to somebody that comes from the outside and say, you're in charge of driving this car, and there's only a certain number of places in the car for people that, we need to have a bus. We need to have a train. We need to have more people that are actively supporting our country and are allowed to be in the room and allowed to actually help give their insight and their experiences. Because if we continue to do what we're doing, we'll continue to fail. We can't recycle this. Our team is talented enough. I want everybody to know that. This team is clearly talented enough to do great things. We had the worst day in the worst possible time with 42 million people watching, maybe 20 million for the first time, saying, really? That's it? That's who we are? What's all the excitement about? They're not that good. And that isn't fair either. So we've got to figure out how to fix this thing pretty quick.
I need to get your take on everything going on surrounding the WNBA's biggest name, Caitlin Clark. And I love Caitlin Clark. You've got all these physical incidents this season. You got Republican lawmakers sending a letter to Kathy Engelbert, the WNBA commissioner, on Wednesday, demanding that the league take accountability for multiple attacks. So what the hell's going on here, Nancy?
Well, sometimes, what is it? Sometimes when people win the lottery, within 2 years, they lose all their money because they're not used to having that type of access and money. But I will tell you this, I agree 100% with Candace Parker, because, Caitlin gets the crap beat out of her. It's definitely something that there's jealousy, there's envy, because to me, she's in the top 3 or 4 players in this league. Some players play the game. Matter of fact, you're seeing a lot of players right there that have played the game, and she changed the game. Candace Parker changed the game. Nancy Lieberman changed the game. Taurasi changed the game. There's people like that, but she is the economic engine. So I understand that you should not get in anybody else's pocketbook, because she has made virtually everybody who is under contract now, you will be millionaires if you're not already. And there would be no $2.2 billion in media rights being given to the WNBA. there would not be commercial, jets right now given to the WNBA. She accelerated everything. I mean, just look at this. Everything she does, and yeah, she's been injured, unfortunately, but I think people take shots at her, and you gotta look back and go, what kind of insecurities do you have that you don't like this player? Because remember the Jordan rules back in 1984? First of all, I don't know if David Stern said anything to, the league or to the union, like, hey, man, we can't hurt this guy. He's playing to, full arenas everywhere he plays. The ratings going up, the collective bargaining, the money's going up because of what Michael Jordan did to this league. Get your feelings out of this, okay? I had a friend once, I still have him. His name is Warren Buffett, and he told me, do not make decisions based on emotion, because you'll almost always make the wrong decision. The players who are taking shots at her right now, you're doing this out of emotion, and it's a bad look. It's a horrible look. Now, I think Congress and the government should stay out of this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But she's the type of player. Hey, who was doing the fist pump when he won tournaments with a red jersey? Tiger Woods in the 90s, when he was elevating the attendance and the purses and the TV ratings. I am sorry that you don't move the needle. 99% of the players in the league play in the league, but you don't move the proverbial needle that makes this a business. I'm sorry. It's the way it is. And I was an unpaid pioneer. You're paid pioneers. You have somebody who's doing something special. It's not her fault and Angel Reese's fault that they came into the pros and they had millions and millions of followers from their collegiate career. Timing is everything. I'm not mad at one player in the WNBA for what you have. I am so proud that this league has elevated to give all of you jobs. Clearly, Asia Wilson is the best player in the world.
Of course.
Her consistency, how she handles herself, the MVPs, the championships. Yep. She's a winner. Her DNA is to win. She's amazing. That's why she has so many national commercials. That's why Angel has so many national commercials. That's why Kelsey Plum has so many national commercials. Sabrina, her shoe is electric in what she's doing with that shoe overseas. And certainly, Caitlin Clark is at the top. I think she'll be the first $100 million player, female player in the history of women's pro basketball.
Syracuse, obviously, we went to college together, grew up in New City together, played Little League together.
Little League, Babe Ruth prep too.
By the way, can we tell that story quickly? Well, first of all, Babe Ruth, when we were 13, New City Phillies won a championship
Champions.
Champion. You played short, I played first. We're the all-star team together.
All-star team. East Fishkill.
That's right.
Living the dream.
Utica, New York, baby. Lost the first game.
Yep.
Double elimination. Won every game after.
Every game.
And then lost the final game.
And then, that's just how it goes sometimes. But that's when I feel like baseball is the purest. When you're young and you're playing, and then you make these all-star teams and you play with other guys around the league that have been on other teams. Obviously, my baseball skills wore out pretty soon after that.
Well, let's get into that too. I'll give you another story, right? I mean, you want to let's do it. So we're 15 years old.
The following year.
So 15 years old, and they take 19 kids on the All-Star team.
Yes.
And they have to cut it down to 15. And
the other 4 that don't make it become alternates.
So
you're pretty much not on the team.
You're not on the team. Not on the team. So you go from All-Star to non-All-Star. Yeah. And they tell me when I say something that's not right. They changed the rules, where it went from New City to Clarkstown to expand the rosters because they thought they were making a run to the 15-year-old Babe Ruth World Series.
They thought they were.
And then 2 of the 4 cuts, these 2 guys right here, and they did it like you played in the NFL.
Yeah.
They did it publicly. They called us out on the field. I'm crying. You put your arm around me. Then the team that was ultimately the roster Lost the first 2 games, got eliminated.
They lost the first 2 games, and then I actually got a call to come by then. I was playing AAU basketball, man. I'm not taking, second fiddle, but that was really the last time I played baseball with that team, and it all worked out
We
for
did
us.
okay,
We
yeah.
did all right, but,
But we'll never forget that.
I always say that's the only team I ever got cut from.
I mean, who
Appreciate
cuts
you.
Keith Bullock? I mean, my goodness, who does that?
I was an alternate, but you might as well be cut.
I mean, we felt like we were cut. And kind of like, we still had friends on the team, but kind of rooting against them at the same time.
Cut.
I mean,
We're cut.
justify that we should have made it. By the way, just tell the audience, I could hit.
Yes, contact, always. I don't recall you striking out. Contact, always going to put the ball in play. Slap hitter.
That's right.
Lefty.
Bad lefty.
Yeah, there you go. And can go opposite field. I remember
right.
that about you, too.
We
only played till 15, but we played in some real intense baseball up there in Rockland.
It was fun.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. And then, of course, we went to Syracuse together.
And I'll tell that story. So I'm getting an interview, the way they did it at Syracuse, you go to your locker, they say, oh, you have an interview, and it's in the cafeteria. And I don't know why I'm getting interviewed. I'm not playing yet at all. And I go in the cafeteria, and I see Adam sitting there, and I'm like, oh, hey, Adam, what's up? What are you doing here? He's like, I'm having an interview with you. And I was like, oh, snap. And it was very professional then at the time. So, it's always great to see you, Pete Thamel.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of guys, Scott Hansen. There's a bunch of guys that went to Syracuse and that I remember just from being on campus and them starting out and to seeing them thrive now.
I love that. And listen, Pete's still one of my close friends, one of my best friends from college. And it's interesting. I try to explain this to the kids. Like the years we were there, Syracuse was phenomenal.
Yeah,
I
we were
mean,
a
the
top
years you
school.
played, the 4 years I was in school, you were there for 5 as a red shirt. Donovan was our quarterback for 4 years. Every game mattered.
And then that's how you start to see if you have a quarterback on football, if you have a quarterback that's capable, like you always have a shot. Like at Syracuse, we always had a shot with Donovan McNabb. We started 1-3 one year, and then we made it to the Fiesta Bowl. So I like the fact that I had an opportunity to play for, a top 25, top 10 school in college. That was a great experience. And we had the experience of our basketball team freshman year going to the championship game.
I try to explain that as well. I mean, we made the tournament obviously every year, but our first year on campus.
That was amazing.
That was energetic. It was unbelievable. John Wallace, Jason Topola, Otis Hill. It was incredible.
Yeah. John Wallace, I always tell him when I see him, man, he was the big man on campus then. And it just kind of as a redshirt freshman, not really knowing what collegiate sports was about. It's like, oh, all right, I see. So John Wallace was
That's how it's supposed to look.
Yeah, for sure.
John Wallace knew how to be John Wallace on campus.
He came into the bar with the nets running around his neck. Oh yeah, John Wallace.
I feel like everybody saw John Wallace that night.
Yeah,
everyone knew it. No question. Final question for you. Arguably the most important. Hair. Listen, I've got my Bumble and Bumble hair clay, which is unbelievable. It's now up to like $33 for the little jar, right? So I'm curious, I made sure post-vacation, a little trip to Cabo, I made sure I had the stubble to match Les Need. We got the glasses together. Your hair is better than mine. I don't know, let's call it like it is. A, take us through the hair care for Les Snead. B, do you have the greatest hair in the NFL?
It's not for me to judge, right? You gotta. I'm gonna leave that to the others to critique the hair. The interesting thing is you show it. There's an element of short and long. I am one of those people who don't think about haircuts. So all of a sudden, if this season starts, next thing you know, it could truly be December. And my wife, Kara, may say, you might need to get a haircut. Neat thing is we have a Mel who cuts our hair. She'll come to the house. She'll make a house call. She takes care of the hair. Just had a training camp cut probably within the last 3 days. She always leaves me the jar of if you call it hair product. I don't know how much it costs. I just take her jar. But without Mel, I couldn't survive. But as I've been staring at this screen, I'm putting best hair between us today, youth. There's just some, mine seems a little, you got a little bit of shine. It's a little longer. I'm going with Adam's hair today.
You got the training camp cuts. I'm due for a cut pretty soon, but yeah, I'll take it today. Less on a winning streak or less, into the season. I love that you have someone who's reliable, comes to the house. You're locked in. You're pouring over street free agents. You might forget that you have to get a haircut. Me, I'm scheduling my haircuts every 3-4 weeks. I got it on speed dial, right? Like I got my guy David. He's ready to go. That's how I roll. I love the fact that for you, it's kind of like in moment, your wife has to say you need a cut, and then you'll be able to go get the haircut. That's the beauty of listening.
I've had some haircuts on Christmas Day with Mel. Right, she doesn't have a family, so there's been some times where the season's been going on, and it's Christmas Day, and you know what? Let's do the haircut today. And you're sitting there, and you're really, it's like, man, it's psychologically like, should we be doing this today? But she's a part of the family, so it's more than just a haircut.
Some are saying that you're the most handsome guest we've ever had on the show because I hear it all the time. You're my doppelganger. I'll get Jeff Goldblum or Andy Samberg or Zach Braff, but it's always you. I see it. Do you?
Dude.
How many times do people say to you, man, you look like Adam Schein?
Yeah, I walk into a room, they're like, yo, it's Schein Time. I want to just apologize publicly that you are compared to me and what I look like, man. I'm sorry you got to go through that. But no, it's good to see you. You look sharp.
Likewise, as always. I love the Philly fan. I truly do. I interact with them, on radio, on Sirius XM all the time, and all the Instagram posts on X. They're smart, they're passionate. What's the biggest misnomer when it comes to the Philly sports fan?
You use the word passionate, and I actually think that's the right word. I think people think sometimes and I'm saying I'm putting myself in that category, we're obnoxious fans. And I think that that's disrespectful because I think what we have is just a passion for our team. We love them. And you know what? When they work hard, win or lose, we always have their back. It's when we feel like they're not putting 100% on the field, or we feel like, they're kind of maybe mailing it in, or they're not their best selves. That's when we get on them. And that is the Philly way. And so, some people see us booing or whatever, you think we're obnoxious. I think it's just passion. And what I think you maybe don't appreciate, I mean this with the utmost respect, being in New York or not being in Philly, is I don't think you can appreciate how the psychology of our city is changed when our teams are playing well.
Makes
you
sense.
Just experienced this with the Knicks. It was a pretty cool thing to watch. New York rally around them. That is sort of Philly all the time, up and down. And so there is something that being a Philly sports fan and these teams have on, the psyche of our city and really across Philly, across the whole area, that is just unique, and it is special, and it is something I love, and it's a passion I have inside me.
Obviously, I mentioned Syracuse. Everyone knows the connection. And listen, I think about these great moments. And literally, my 4 years in college were your 4 years as the starter. And, every single game mattered. The dome was rocking. I mean, I was calling the games for WAER when, we beat Miami and you're coming off the field. We won 60-10. I was just talking to Dan Morgan about that.
Oh, 66-13. Yeah,
66-13. It was unbelievable. And you got that big ovation. We won at Michigan in the Big House, the Gator Bowl. I mean, we could go on and on. My personal favorite moment, McNabb to Berminski. Do you have a favorite play from our time at Syracuse together? Favorite moment?
Steve will be very excited that you mentioned that versus the Virginia Tech Hokies. That was a great game. My mom ran out on the field. I don't know how she jumped from the bleachers onto the turf. But her and Rob Conrad's mom jumped on the field. That was kind of a sight to see. I would, personally, I would mention the Miami game. And the only reason I mentioned the Miami game because that was senior day. And that was my last home game, in the Dome. And so to beat Miami 66-13, wasn't so much about the score, but it was everything that it was involved in the game, from the intro and the beginning of the game to the way we played offensively and defensively, and then to finish the game off where our backup quarterback came in and I came off the field, and I think they might have played the Star Wars theme song when I came off, and to look up in the stands and to see my dad and mom just kind of in awe of everything that's happened through my 5-year career at Syracuse, and for it to end like that in the Dome was special.
That was one of the great days I've ever been a part of, seriously. And I love that you mentioned that. It was an ass kicking, it was a celebration, it was just a sweet and special day. Final one before we let you go, and I do love Fran Brown. How do we get Syracuse football back to being relevant and dominant?
Well, I mean, in the world of NIL and the transfer portal, he's been heavy in the transfer portal, getting guys from other Power 4 schools, and so to try to mold them to be able to get that chemistry like we wanted. We have our starting quarterback coming back off of injury, after the Achilles injury, and I've heard good things of how he's been doing and recovering, so that's a bonus. Secondly, we have some weapons on the outside as well as a solid running game. So offensively, we should get back in the mode now. It's a little different than when Kyle McCord was there. But I think what we plan to do offensively is going to be exciting again. It kind of starts with our defense. Defense and special teams are being able to give us good field position, and defense being able to get off the field on third down, where we'll be able to see a little bit more of our offense start to evolve.